Hi there people, how's it going? This is Cross the Rubicon channel. Just show you a bit of damage here from the winds on Saturday. I've got around to clean a bit of it up, but it was just too much. Anyway, this video, I was a little bit reluctant to make this video because, well, I've got my reasons and I'm sure you know the reasons, but oh well, someone's got to say it and I know others are saying it, but I've got quite a big voice and, well, what else can they do to me, eh? In New Zealand, the National Party and ACT became the government as good as on Saturday. It would have been better if they had New Zealand First on board with them, Winston Peters especially, but they didn't seem to need him. So now it's just National and ACT. Now the reason I say about Winston Peters being in government would have been a good thing is because on the run-up to the election, Winston Peters was pointing out the elephant in the room that nearly every single politician in New Zealand, even minor parties, wouldn't talk about. And the elephant in the room is co-governance and the constant Maorification of absolutely everything in New Zealand. And Winston said only a few weeks back, 3 weeks ago maybe, that Winston Peters is Maori, and he's 78 years old, unfortunately not in government, but he said as a Maori that Maori are not indigenous to New Zealand. How can they be indigenous to New Zealand when they came here by boat from a place called Hawakia, whom no historian has identified 100% as to where Hawakia actually was. But they came here in the 13th century. But now, via corruption and manipulation of non-Maori politicians over many decades, National and Labour, absolute corruption where I believe, I might be wrong, but I just believe this, that money has changed hands to suit the agenda that Maori are indigenous, and the treaty, Waitangi Treaty, was a partnership. It wasn't. Maori ceded sovereignty to the Crown on February the 6th, 1840. They gave up their sovereignty to the Queen of England, Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. Great Britain, if you like. But now, these Maori radical extremists, and to name a few, Willie Jackson, John Tamahiri, who used to be a sensible voice but now he's a radical extremist Maori. He is the father-in-law of Rawiri Waititi. He's the one with the face paint on, and anyway, he looks quite ridiculous to me. That's just me. Debbie Packer, Rawiri Waititi, who I've just mentioned, and many others are now not only radical extremist Maori who have, well, almost exclusivity to say anything they want, carte blanche, with impunity, make up any story they want about Maori and how perfect New Zealand was before the British came here, and the media will support them all the way. Now John Tamahiri and Rawiri Waititi, all of them, even James Shaw of the Greens. James Shaw is a communist. The Green Party of New Zealand are communists. The green on the outside, but red on the inside. Marama Davison, if you ever listen to her, she said, how long ago? Wasn't quite a year ago, where all the violence in New Zealand is caused by white cis males. This is the mentality of the Greens. They're not interested in green issues, they're interested in LGBTQ and Maori co-governance of New Zealand. Tova O'Brien, she's a Maori journalist, a radical Maori extremist journalist. She interviewed David Seymour a few days back. David Seymour is the leader of ACT Party and now basically is in government alongside a very, very weak, limp-wristed ex-CEO of Air New Zealand, Chris Luxon, who is absolutely as weak as piss on Maori issues. And just a couple of 3 weeks ago, when Winston Peters said Maori are not indigenous to New Zealand, the media asked Chris Luxon, the now Prime Minister of New Zealand, what he thought about Winston Peters, who's a Maori, 78-year-old Maori, and our only, as close as, a political statesman in New Zealand. When they asked Luxon what he thought of Winston Peters' statement, he said, well, he's wrong because they are indigenous to New Zealand. That's our Prime Minister now. New Zealand's got a real problem, a real problem. A very, very weak Prime Minister, and basically his running mate, if you like, is number 2, David Seymour. He wants to hold a referendum on the Waitangi Treaty, because the Waitangi Treaty now is not, showing a bit of this damage here, that moment to step over. The Waitangi Treaty now is not what it was signed in 1840. Now, these radical extremist Maori say that it was a partnership and they didn't sign sovereignty away, and they want this country and they want every last square inch of this land. They want to own the water, they want to own the air you breathe, they want to own everything. The only thing they've got over the British is that they got here before them. They didn't evolve from New Zealand like the tuatara or the kiwi, the bird the kiwi, or the alpine weta. They came from somewhere else, they don't know where, nobody knows where, in the Pacific Ocean. Now John Tamahiri and James Shaw, the communist, they are both communists. Rest assured, Te Pāti Maori, or the Maori Party in English, and the Greens and the Labour Party are communists. Communists have got a firm grip of this country, New Zealand. John Tamahiri, because David Seymour said to Tova O'Brien, who's a radical extremist Maori, in an interview that he wants to hold a referendum. James Shaw, the leader of the Greens, who's a communist, again, I have to emphasise these people are communists, said basically there will be huge disruption, protests and violence in the streets by radical extremist Maori in all major cities and towns in New Zealand. John Tamahiri seconded that with another interview with Tova O'Brien. So these people now, these communists, not happy with the election. They should be happy with Luxon because he is quite pathetic. They are threatening violence if there is a referendum on the Waitangi Treaty in New Zealand. Even now, lawyers across New Zealand and real estate agents and all other professions in New Zealand are having to be re-educated on the Waitangi Treaty, the new version of the Waitangi Treaty, the revised version by radical extremist Maori. They're having to be re-educated, and if you say anything against it, you're finished. You're finished for life. Your career is ended. You will be branded a racist by the media. So, we've got a new governor. Chris Luxon is the Prime Minister. David Seymour is his number two, his coalition partner, if you like. David Seymour is a bit further to the right, where Chris Luxon is as weak as gnat's piss. And he's even learning Te Reo Maori. And I guarantee you, if Rawiri Waititi or Debbie Packer or Willie Jackson told him that Maori have been here for 60,000 years, he would second that and believe it all the way. And this man was the CEO of Air New Zealand. They do it because they're weak as piss. But these people are communists. They are no different, or they're going to be no different with these threats than, what was his name? Jacob Zuma, was it? Jacob Zuma, I think it was. This political party in South Africa, Econic Freedom Fighters, I think it was. You know, that one who dances on the stage saying, kill the Boer, kill the Boer. That's what these people are turning into. And they are radicalising our school children, because this is being pushed everywhere through our schools and our universities. People must be re-educated on the new revised history of New Zealand, where Maori are indigenous, and the Waitangi Treaty was a partnership. None of it is true. I'm going to leave a link under this video, and it's of John Tamahiri's interview with Tova O'Brien. I think her name's O'Brien, regardless. You will see John Tamahiri, he looks as white as me, but these people are radical extremist Maoris, and they know that if they get what they want and manage to radicalise our children, radicalise as many people, plus Maori and Pākehā are white people in New Zealand, non-Maori, if they radicalise as many as possible, then they are staring down the barrel of billions upon billions upon billions, unimaginable wealth, all based on lies. And the media in New Zealand, 100% right across the board, are fully on board with what they do. I'm not sure how it's going to work out, because Jacinda Ardern of the Labour Party, who's, thank God she's gone, I'm not going to tell you what I really think of that woman, and Chris Hipkins is gone. They funded the New Zealand media, right across the board, all media, $55 million a year in the public interest journalist fund, to basically get the media to agree with everything the government and radical extremist Maori said. But I'm not sure how this is going to pan out. I don't think anyone knows. Now we've got a national government, and like I said, we've got a national government. One would think, even in New Zealand, that we've had a little bit of a swing to the right. The only swing to the right is a little bit of David Seymour. But Chris Luxon, the Prime Minister, he is, like I said, weak as piss, and he will do exactly what he's being told from a WEF and the United Nations. And the United Nations have actually stated that Maori are indigenous to New Zealand. How did they hoodwink the United Nations to say that Maori are indigenous to New Zealand? It's very clever, they're very cunning, but that was John Key. John Key did that. He got the United Nations to agree that Maori are indigenous to New Zealand. When he sent Peter Sharples over there in 2010, I think it was, to sign on the document, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, when Maori are not indigenous to New Zealand. It's a fact. It's a fact that's being called a lie by radical extremist communist Maori, elite Maori, like John Tamahiri, Willie Jackson, Rawiri Waititi, Debbie Packer, and all iwi chiefs. Iwi means tribe in New Zealand, who have made billions upon billions upon billions. This country is being screwed for billions, given to a people who are living a lie. Some people have a problem with me talking about this because I'm not a native. Well, I suppose I am a native now. I'm a citizen of New Zealand. As you can tell by my accent, I'm from the UK. But I've been here for 22 years. I've got a stake in this country. I've got grandchildren in this country. So I've got a right to say it. And many other people should be saying what I'm saying. People like Julian Batchelor, people like Terry O'Pines, people like Carol Sarkey, Damien Dement, Carl Bromley. A little bit of the platforms, Sean Plunkett, but you don't know where he's going to be from one day to the next. Well, people, just because we've got a new government in New Zealand doesn't mean things are going to change for the better. I hope they do, but the Maori extremists, the communists, and they are communists, start using the word communists because that's what they are. Willie Jackson, John Tamahiri, Rawiri Waititi, Debbie Packer, and these people, these radical Maori extremists who want preferential treatment and ownership of the water, every square inch of land in this country, the lakes, the rivers, everything. They don't want co-governance. They want 100% governance. That's what they want. Because they believe they own it. They came here in the 13th century. There were people here before. And we know what happened to them. We know what the Maori did to them. Right. I think I've said what I needed to say. If you're upset by it, if you're offended by it, then, oh well, I'm not going to apologise, because what I've said I believe to be the truth, and many people believe to be the truth, but the vast majority of people are too afraid to actually say it, because these communists will get you fired and get your life destroyed. And I'm not talking about just Maori radicals like the aforementioned, but that is the media as well, will come and destroy you. 3 people asked me to make this video today, so there's my video. This is Cross the Rubicon. Please like, leave a comment, subscribe to this channel, share this video everywhere. Okay, see you later.